Hi everyone. I want to talk to you guys today about something that is really important to me and something that I feel like is not talked about enough. And that is depression, anxiety, eating disorders, suicidal feelings, problems with self-image and body dysmorphia. All of these things can consume a person's life, and they kind of feed in on each other, and one can make the other worse. And I know that so many people, especially young people, but all ages, struggle with these things. And I don't think that it is addressed enough. I don't think there are enough options available to people who are struggling with these things, and I don't think it's talked about enough. So today, I'm going to share with you guys my personal story of what I've been through in my life. And I've never really sat down and shared my story like this before. So forgive me if it's kind of all over the place, but I feel like it's important for me to share some of the things that I'm going through and the things that I still struggle with every single day, because I want other people to know that they are not alone when they're going through these things. You're not the only one who struggles with depression, anxiety, eating disorders. There is a massive amount of young people that also have these problems. So from a very young age, like 10 or 11, I started to wonder why I didn't look like the other girls at my school, because I developed early and I started to have a womanly figure, which I got from my mother, and I'm very blessed that I do have that. But when I was in middle school, I felt, even before that in elementary school, I felt like I was developing too early. I felt like my body didn't look like the other girls. I felt like I was fat, that I needed to lose weight. So I started dieting. I was probably 9 or 10 when I started dieting and restricting my food. And so my mom would always make me healthy dinners and lunches, and I started to take foods off the plate that I just wouldn't eat. And I also was a dancer, so I had dance classes a few times a week. And I remember coming home from my dance classes, and my mom had made me a steak dinner with baked potato, which was my absolute favorite, and I couldn't touch it. I couldn't eat it because I felt so guilty. And I thought my only option for people to like me and for me to like me was to eat less, to lose weight, to look better. That was what I thought. So that continued on. There were points in my life growing up where it was worse or better in that time period, but always there. It was always there, always thinking about, what am I eating today? What I wish I didn't eat, what food controlled my life. And so when I was in 8th grade, my dad lost his job and he got a new job, and we had to move from my home in Alabama, in Huntsville, Alabama, to Atlanta, Georgia. And I moved from a very tiny private school where I had very close friends to an enormous public school where there was 1,000 freshmen in my class. I moved the summer before freshman year of high school, so I didn't know anybody. Starting out high school with a massive class, my school was so enormous that you had different buildings you had to walk to, just like a college campus, for your different classes. Like algebra and history were in different buildings. It was a massive school. And this was a huge shock for me, culture shock and everything. It was a huge change. And I had a lot of anxiety, and I felt like I didn't fit in, and I dealt with this by amping up my restriction on my food intake. I still thought that I was fat, even though I was smaller than I had ever been in my entire life. I was probably 110 pounds, but I felt like I was still needed to lose weight. So I started severely restricting my food intake and over-exercising. I would run 8 or 12 miles when I hadn't eaten anything all day. I felt like I was gonna pass out, but I made myself do it because I thought that was the only thing that was gonna make me happy and the only way I'd feel good about myself. And so I continued to do that until my mom picked up on the fact that I was barely eating, and she was terrified that I was going to pass out at school. But I didn't care. I just wanted to be skinny. That was all I cared about. And so I kept doing what I was doing, and I overanalyzed every single piece of food that went into my mouth. It was a horrible way to live. And anorexia can destroy families. It can destroy a life. And I've seen that firsthand when I dealt with anorexia in high school and the over-exercising. It's not a way to live. It's a nightmare life. I was envious of people who didn't have eating disorders because I felt like my life would be so much easier if I didn't have to worry about that. But it controlled me. It controlled my every thought. I remember being afraid to brush my teeth because of the calories in the toothpaste. I was scared to take a shower because I thought that salts and minerals would be absorbed in the water into my body as calories. And it just got to a point where it was extremely severe and I had to seek help. And my parents supported me the whole time. Actually in the middle of freshman year at the new school, my dad got a new job again, and we moved again to where I live now in Kentucky. And so I was moving in the middle of freshman year. I lived in a hotel for over a year with my dad. Went to school out of the hotel. My mom was still back in Atlanta, Georgia, and I didn't know anybody because it was the middle of freshman year and I had no friends. I had to start over again. And so I continued on with my food restriction, my over-exercising. I had severe depression. All of these things continued to go on. I developed a relationship with a boy that became obsessive and toxic, and he ended up being both emotionally and physically abusive. And I think I still see repercussions from that relationship today. Thank goodness it was not the father of my son, but it was a relationship that was so toxic that it just completely destroyed me, and it probably would never have ended if he hadn't moved away for college. So when that finally ended, I felt I was in an even worse place than before. I had been self-harming. I had been cutting my arms, my hips. My parents found out about this, and I felt like it was the only way that I could feel alive. And I also felt like I deserved that pain because I felt like I was worth nothing. I felt like my friends and family would be better off without me with them anymore. And so I would cut myself a lot, and there were times that I had to get, stitches at the doctor because it was pretty bad. I had a suicide attempt when I was with my abusive boyfriend, where I took too many pills because I thought that it would be better to be dead than to live the life that I was living. And there were 2 or 3 times where I tried to kill myself in high school. And I don't think I really wanted to die, but I knew I didn't want to live like that. And so anything felt like it would be a better option. Towards the end of high school, I became pregnant when I was only 17 years old with someone that I really didn't know all that well. And I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. And my parents were my saving grace, and they loved me through it. They supported me. They said, "You're gonna have this baby and we're gonna be right by your side." So I had my son Liam, and he's 5 years old now. He is the biggest blessing in my life. He is a true gift from God. He turned my life around, and nothing was ever the same. I still struggled and still do struggle with these things, but it has never been as bad as that point before I became pregnant with my son. So I feel so lucky to have him in my life and to have had that experience. After my son was born, I started having a different kind of disordered eating. I wasn't restricting my food, but I was binging on tons of junk food, and then I would feel this immense guilt. Finally, I started struggling with bulimia, and this is something that's really hard for me to admit. All of this is because not many people know about that, and it's something that I still struggle with today. Self-image issues have been a lifelong battle for me, and so when I reached this point of bulimia, I felt like, well, if I can eat what I want and throw it up, then that has to be better than not eating anything at all. But it's not any better, because you feel sick all the time. It is so bad for your body. It is so detrimental to your health. It's a terrible way to live, and nobody should have to live like that. Eating disorders are something I believe that you can never 100% conquer, but that you always have those thoughts, and you have to fight them. You cannot just give in and suffer, which I did for years. You need to get help, go to therapy, talk to someone about it, and fight it. Don't just accept that that's the way things are. Eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness, and it can kill you, and it does kill people every single day. Along with these struggles were a continued fight against my depression as well, something that I've had for a long time. I do feel it's tied into my eating disorder problems. All of these things kind of feed on each other. And it is so important that if you are going through these things, that you know that you are not alone. I felt so isolated for a long time while I was going through the worst time of my life. And I wish there had been somebody there to talk to me and tell me, I've gone through this too, and it's going to be okay. I'm so passionate about this. It is so important to me that young girls know that they don't have to look like girls in magazines. They don't have to look at social media to get their identity. You cannot get acceptance, identity, or true purpose from anybody else but from inside of you and from the Lord. That's what I believe. So every day for me is a true fight and struggle. Every day I fight these things. And I don't think I'll ever 100% conquer them, but I know where I've come. I know how bad things were, and I know how far I've come. And so please, if you struggle with these things, or you know somebody that struggles with these things, talk to them about it. Encourage them to be open with their feelings and to seek help. They are not alone. You would be astounded how many people struggle with this. Even eating disorders, men and women. So many people struggle with them, and it's a nightmare. It's a living nightmare. I don't want anybody else to have to struggle through that alone. Please feel free to comment on this video or contact me if you're going through a difficult time in your life, because I guarantee I can understand what you've been through, and if I can't understand, I will sympathize and I will talk to you through anything. You should not feel like you don't have anybody to talk to. So I just wanted to tell you guys what my personal journey and struggle has been, because most people don't know that about me, because I'm pretty good at hiding it. I know this has been a long video, but thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.